everyone, my name is Carissa.
And my name is Tyler.
And welcome to the Christ Fellowship Young Adult YouTube channel. We are the young adult ministry of Christ Fellowship Church in South Florida. We're a community of young adults who love Jesus, are seeking after his purposes for us so that we can transform the culture around us.
And we're so glad that you've made it here. And while you're here, go ahead and take a second to hit the subscribe button, get connected to all that we're doing, and you'll never miss a beat. Here you'll find a new message every week curated just for our young adults community that we get from Thursdays, our 7:30 gatherings. You'll be able to watch and listen to our very own podcast, the Young and Adulting Podcast. Look out for all our special original music, content, and more from our young adults team.
Yeah, check out the description below for more info on who we are, what we do, and how you can be a part of it. And share this page with a friend who needs to jump in and be a part of this community. Well, welcome to the CF Young Adults YouTube channel.
Well, welcome to Young Adults. I'm so excited to be here. Man, if we haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Lewis, and I get to serve up in the Treasure Coast, the 772 with our young adults up there. But it is always an honor to get to come here to Young Adults Online. I know Pastor Kate, you got the best pastor in the whole entire world. She's on top of it. She's making sure you're connected. And we're about to play a game. We haven't done this too often. We're going to play a game. So, Pastor Casey, can you come out here real quick? She's going to come on out, and we're going to play a word association game. It's fantastic. So wherever she is in the back, Casey, would you come on out here real quick? Give it up one time in the chat for your pastor, Casey Mejia. I'm so glad. Come on out here. This is awesome. Casey, say hi to everybody. She normally is on the other side making sure everything runs right, but today you're here. We're going to play a word association game, okay? I'm going to say a word, and you give me the one word that comes to your mind whenever you hear it, okay?
I was not prepared for this.
The word is Rams.
Football.
Football! We had the Super Bowl this week. It was a blast. Here's another word, halftime.
Show.
Halftime show. In the chat, tell us what you think about the halftime show. Hotly contested, big opinions, let us know. Here's another word. Burrow. Joe Burrow, because it's ice cold in his veins, except Eli Apple let him down a little bit. One more word. What comes to your mind when you think of the word idol?
American
Idol. Give it up for Pastor Casey. Thank you so much. She had no idea we were doing it, which made it so much better. I think a lot of people, whenever they hear that word idol, they go exactly to American Idol. I've also heard that there is on the show Survivor, which I've never watched for some reason. I'm not into that. I like Bear Grylls. But on the show Survivor, there's an idol, and it helps make decisions on who's going to get kicked off the island. I looked up idol, and apparently there's a K-pop band that has a song with 1 billion views called Idol. Maybe you think of an idol like in the traditional way with like the statue, maybe the cat in the Asian restaurant that's giving you blessings and good luck. I don't know what you think when you think of the word idol, but I know we all think of something. And I think the idol is, in contemporary language, it's a star. You know, LeBron James could be an idol that people admire and they want to be like him. If we're going to talk Super Bowl, maybe the Lombardi Trophy is an idol. That's something people give their whole entire lives to. Idols are, in contemporary language, we don't put too much weight to the word. In ancient language, we think about idols that people would set up, idols to the sun, to the moon, to the river, to different gods. I think how we think about idols matters because I think God talks about it. And we're going to go back to potentially this could be the story that you think of when you hear the word idol. It's the Israelites, okay? God has just brought them through the Red Sea, rescued them from hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt. And then God goes, or Moses goes up to the top of the mountain, Mount Sinai, and God is meeting with him there. And then in that moment, the Israelites do something, and we're gonna open the Bible and pick it up. I'm so excited to talk about this. And in the next few minutes, I think we're gonna learn how to identify idols and then how to respond to them. And it could bring a lot of freedom to our lives. We're opening up Exodus chapter 32. That's what we're talking about. And it says, when the people saw how long it was taking Moses to come back down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. Now, the Super Bowl was last week, man. I got to talk about football a little bit because Joe Burrow will line up and he throws the ball, okay? And there's a space between when he throws the ball and Jamar Chase catches the ball and runs in for a touchdown. And that space is called hang time. And what the Israelites are in, they're in hang time right now because God is bringing Moses up to the mountain. And he is actually telling Moses how to best love and be loved by God. Because, Valentine's was a few days ago, and if you had a Valentine, you don't get to just show up with your preferences and your interests and say, Happy Valentine's Day. I don't think Kalisa would love a LSU football-themed Valentine's Day party. That wouldn't go well because she's an individual with preferences, and she's got a personality, and she has certain ways that she wants to love and express love, and it's the same with God. God is up on the top of the mountain with Moses, sharing all of this. And then as soon as Moses comes down from the mountain, the people of Israel are going to know how to love God during hang time between the promise and the possession. And what they choose to do is devastating. They gather around Aaron and they say, come on, make us some gods who can lead us. We don't know what happened to this fellow Moses, which blows me away. This fellow Moses, who was the only one bold enough to believe God's promise and go up to Pharaoh with Aaron and say, let my people go. The fellow Moses who launched the 10 plagues against Egypt, and God moved through him. The fellow Moses, who was the only one that had faith to lift his staff up. The fellow Moses. Man, when we're impatient, we lose perspective on the people God put around us. Moses was supposed to be somebody that they followed, that they took leadership from, but instead it became somebody they got frustrated with just because they were impatient. How many times does that happen with us? This is where the people of Israel are. This fellow Moses who brought us here from the land of Egypt, we don't know what happened to him. So Aaron said, take the gold rings from the ears of your wives, sons, and daughters and bring them to me. So all the people did what Aaron said. They brought the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. Then Aaron took the gold, melted it down, and molded it into the shape of a calf, which is odd. When the people saw it, they exclaimed, O Israel, these are the gods who brought you out of Egypt. But these are most definitely not the gods that brought them out of Egypt. Some context, these are the people who just got rescued out of Egypt. And honestly, all that they knew about God, they didn't know he created the world. They hadn't got that revelation yet. They didn't know that he formed Adam and Eve and he breathed his breath into them and they were set apart to be images of God. They didn't know any of that yet. All they knew was that a few hundred years ago, maybe 500 years ago, Father Abraham had many sons and many sons had father. That's all they knew about God, was that an ancestor of theirs 500-600 years ago named Abraham had a promise from this God that they didn't know, which was wild in their context because they were looking around at the Egyptian sun god and the moon god and the god of the Nile River, these gods to these pieces of nature that seemed eternal. Everybody else has a God that has lasted forever, but for some reason, their God has only been around for 500 years, and all they know about him is he's relatively young compared to the other gods around them. And all they know is that he's strong because he did rescue the people from Egypt. He did bring the plagues against the Pharaoh, and he did part the Red Sea. So they know he's young, and they know he's strong. And so what's an animal that is young and strong? It's a calf. What's the point? They limited God to their experience of him. They only knew him as young and strong. But how many of us do the same thing? We only know God as maybe he did a miracle in somebody else's life, but he's not the miracle worker in my life. And so we in our minds limit God to only our experience of him. He hasn't rescued anybody that was lost in my family, so he's not going to do it again. He hasn't done a miracle in my family. The diagnosis is still there, so I don't have faith for him in the future. We limit God to our experience of him, and that's exactly what they do. The Israelites, they had a craving for a God that they could touch and see and wrap their minds around. They had a desire to have a possession that they could look at and hold and say, this is our God. They wanted to look at something because all the other nations around them had a God with an idol. So why shouldn't they have a God with an idol? And then the people of Israel, they had this desire. You see that when they make the idol, they erupt in celebration. They wanted something to celebrate. They wanted to feel successful. And I think we do the same exact thing. But the problem is that God told the people of Israel to wait. But instead of waiting, they rushed. And this is where they ended up. Created an idol, a golden calf, something that looks nothing like God. And I don't think that you have a golden calf in your bedroom. That would be something. If you had a calf made of solid gold, you should try to sell that, not try to worship it. We don't normally set up idols that way, but we do have things in our life that we try to set in the place of God. We try to say, God must not be all this, so I'm going to set him up in this way. Maybe it's a craving in our life. Maybe it's a possession we try to hold. Maybe it's success that we try to celebrate and say that we didn't need God to do it. We have these idols. And you know what? To be plain and simple, and I want you to write this down. An idol is anything that takes the place of God in your life. It's anything that takes the place of God in your life. I love this quote from Tim Keller. He's a pastor in New York. I want to read it to you. It says that an idol is anything more important to you than God. Anything that absorbs your heart and imagination more than God. And anything that you seek to give you only what God can give you. Essentially, an idol can be anything that takes the place of God as the most important focus and priority in our life. I want to pick up the story. It says, this is verse 6. The people of Israel got up early the next morning to sacrifice burnt offerings and peace offerings. And after this, they celebrated with feasting, with drinking. They indulged in pagan revelry. The Lord said to Moses, quick, go down the mountain. For your people who you brought out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. How quickly they have turned away from the way I commanded them to live. They've melted down gold and made a calf. They've bowed down and sacrificed to it. They're saying that that is the God that brought them out of the land of Egypt. My fear is that we could be so quick to turn away from what God has commanded us. Now, I don't think that we're going to go out and gather all the gold in our house and make an idol. But we're going to be tempted to make an idol out of the things in our life that we want to put in the place of God. And it's a process, you know? It's not a process that takes a long time. God says, look how quickly they have turned away. And I think it doesn't happen in the course of months. I think it happens in the course of moments and milliseconds where we decide there is something to do, but I want this more. It's anything that we want more than God. And we place on this pedestal and it becomes an idol and we live devoted to it. And friends, we're not going to make calves, but what we are going to do is I want to read you this verse. John said it this way. He said, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eyes, and the pride of life, it's not from the Father, but it's from the world. So what does that mean? The desires of the flesh, the desire of the eyes, the pride of life. It all comes from this word in Greek. It's called epithmio, which means desire, long for, a lust for, to set one's heart upon, to lust after, to long for, to covet. It's anything that we put in the place of God. And I think about these Israelites who had the God of everything to worship, but they settled for a God made of earrings. The Israelites, literally, if they would have just waited, God was on the mountain writing promises for their people and promises for their life and commandments to bless them and free them, but they settled for a golden calf in the desert. We don't have calves. We have cravings that control us and limit us and stick us to everything that God doesn't want for us. And I don't want that to be the case. I think about that one line. Aaron said, grab the gold earrings from your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring them to me. Making an idol is always going to cost something. I don't have any gold earrings, but I have integrity, and I have promises from God. I have a church family. I have a future. I have a wife. I don't want anything to jeopardize what God has for me. I don't want an idol to come up and I choose to worship an idol over the one who made me. I don't want to do that, and I know you don't want to do it either. Why would we choose to worship something we create instead of worshiping the one who created us? Here's, I think the first step that we have to do is we just have to identify the idols in our lives. We got to identify the things that are going to cost us more than we want to pay. We have to identify the things that we put in the place of God. I think here's the first question we got to ask. Do cravings control me? If you're taking notes, write it down. Do cravings control me? Because that verse in 1 John says, for all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh. The NLT uses the word the cravings of the flesh. The NIV uses the word the lust of the flesh. It's that desire for more. That thing in you that says, I'm not content with where I am. I need more. And it's on the inside of me. It's a craving that's going to control me. You might have a craving. If you view or do something that feels good rather than something that is right. I don't know what the idol is for you, but if you look at statistics, the idol and the lives of many people is the idol of pornography, something that may feel good or look good over what's right. Maybe it's the idol, if we're talking about things that we're looking at, maybe the idol of Instagram. There's nothing harmful on there, but there are people to love around you in your living room, but instead you're on Instagram. These idols that we put in the place of God. God has huge promises for our life, but we're playing video games and we can't figure it out. And it's not wrong, but it's wrong if it's not in the right place. Do cravings control me? You might have your cravings control you if you trust in a romantic relationship more than God. Hello, on Valentine's week. You trust in a romantic relationship more than God. What does that mean? It means if something happened, the person you love was gone, would you be able to still stand? Is the foundation of your life built upon Christ, or is it built upon a relationship? Is it the safety in that relationship that causes you to feel safe in life, or is it the safety of the God who made the heavens and the earth and everything in it, who loves you and cares for you and saved you and redeemed you and is bringing you back home? Is the safety in God or in a guy or a girl? You may have a craving if you follow your impulses and urges, whether or not they are for good. What are you eating? What are you drinking? I'm not talking about the extra piece of chocolate cake. I'm talking about when your life is so consumed by having to have a comfort food or so consumed by having to have another drink that you end up losing the things that you love most in pursuit of something that's not going to last. Do cravings control me? I believe that God has put godly cravings inside of us. A craving for holiness. In fact, Jesus said, those who hunger and thirst for righteousness will be filled. So is our craving for things of the world or things of God? There are godly cravings in us. And I've heard a pastor say, what you feed grows and what you starve dies. So if we're going at cravings, we need to starve the cravings that are going to kill us, the cravings that are worshiping idols, and we need to feed the cravings that are going to fill us and feed us and make us more into who God has for us. That craving for biblical community and groups, that craving for corporate worship at church on Sunday, that craving for personal holiness. I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to pray. I'm going to feed myself on those things and starve the things that may try to control me. Here's the second question. I think it's important to ask, do possessions own me or do I own possessions? And there is a difference. Do possessions own me or do I own possessions? We have a tendency to always want the next thing, and that's not necessarily bad, but if you don't get the next thing, are you okay? That's a fair question to ask. If you don't get the latest release or the latest drop or the latest shoes or the latest car or phone, whatever it is, are you okay being content? Paul said that I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been full, I've been starving, I've been clothed, I've been naked, I've been beat, I've been in prison, I've been in palaces, and I found the secret to everything. I found contentment in everything. It's that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Is your strength coming from your stuff or from God? It's a question to ask. Do cravings control you? Here are some signs you may let possessions own you. You've made an idol out of possessions. If you find it hard to be generous with your money and your finances, then that may be a sign that there may be an idol in your life of money. And you're going after it. And you think the more you have, the stronger you'll be. And if you give it away, you're actually losing something. But the kingdom narrative says that actually if you give it away, you're storing for yourself up treasures in heaven where nothing's ever going to destroy it. And you're getting a return on your kingdom investment whenever you are generous. I don't know. Maybe another question is it difficult for you to share things? I know it may not be difficult to share a pen, but if somebody needs to borrow your car, is it difficult for you to be generous with your time? If things are not all about you, are you okay making something about somebody else? Here's another question. Is your level of contentment based on the name brands that you're wearing? I don't know if I can name a single name brand I'm wearing except Young Adults. That's the only brand I care about. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can name any of that, but my contentment's not in it for sure. I'm just here. And I think that you and I need to live in that same exact vein. Not caring about what others think, not caring about what we're wearing, but caring about what God thinks about us. I believe God has put a desire in us to be cared for, and that's totally valid, to have food and shelter and friends, but we can't let that become the idol in our lives. I got one more question, okay? One more question. Are you with me? Here it is. Does success consume me? Does success consume me? We talk about it, but this need for greatness, this need for freedom, this need to have more than the person next door, does that consume me? And here's a question. Maybe you've made success an idol if you are starving for affirmation from other people. If you don't get enough likes on Instagram, are you going to delete the post? Let's be real. Are you going to delete the post if not enough people engage with it? Maybe another way to ask the question is the mood that you have in the day determined by the meeting that you had with your boss that day? You know, if your boss praises you, you're happy. If your boss gives you a little critique, you're devastated. We're not going to make success an idol for us. We have a firm foundation in our lives. We don't need the affirmation of anybody else. If God is for us, who could be against us? So I don't need anybody to say anything about me. I'm content in who God has made me to be. Here's another one. Do you find your worth in your status, in your education? I don't know if you watch The Office, but Andy Bernard, what school did he go to? Cornell. He took so much pride in a school that he went to. That became an idol in his life and actually a defining feature in his life. Are we defined by our education or our net worth? Are we defined by our job title or our position in the company? No. We're defined by God. And he says that we are loved, that we are holy. Yeah, Psalm says that you are the apple of God's eye. So why? I know it's so tempting for me. Why do I try to get caught up on what other people think about me? Pastor Lance Witt, he said, would you rather have 10,000 likes on a picture or 10,000 moments that are liked by your Heavenly Father? Where does our affirmation come from? I believe God has created us with desires to be known, and that's okay. But we're supposed to be known first and foremost by Him, the God who made us and loved us. His desire is for us to be satisfied in Him and Him alone. As we're closing up, we're going to talk next week, and I need you to come back. I need you to come back next week because we're going to talk about how to tear down the idols that we have created in our life. But tonight, the question that we need to answer is, who are we going to worship? Are we going to worship the idols in our life? Or are we going to worship the God of our life? That's a fair question. Who are we selling our lives out to? Are you all in to fulfill the craving in your body that is here now and gone tomorrow? And probably as soon as you get your craving, you're going to realize that you're emptier than you've ever been. Am I going to go all out for cravings? Am I going to go all out for possessions to own me and consume me? And I'm never going to get away from this constant fog and this constant fear that somebody else is going to get the latest and the greatest and I'm going to get put behind. Are we going to sell ourselves out to that? Are we going to go all out to be the best and to be successful? Have the pride of life thinking I did this, I'm a self-made man and nobody helped me? Or are we going to be in utter dependence on God who made us, who saved us, who's coming back for us? A guy that Moses' mentor, Joshua, said, choose this day who you will serve. Is it going to be the idols in our life, the desires for cravings, the desires for possessions, the desire for success? Or are we going to serve God? Are we going to settle for the God who made everything? Or a God made of earrings like the Israelites did? It's an important question to ask. In fact, we have in the description of this video below a little PDF. I want you to click on it in the next few minutes. It's got a few questions. It's a grid to help us try to identify the idols in our lives, because we can't remove something that we haven't identified. We can't attack something that we don't know what it is or where it's from. We got to know the idols in our lives and choose this day who we will serve. And Joshua said, for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. For our young adult community, my prayer is that we could say for us in our house, in our generation, in our family, and in our lives, we will serve the Lord. You know what else? We're praying for you. We love you so much. I'm praying that this message is something that would affect my life. I need to identify the idols that I've set up, and I need to come back to young adults next week to figure out how to tear them down. But the first step is to identify what they are, and then we're just going to ask Jesus, Lord, I want to follow you better. And so if anything, may your prayer today be, Jesus, I want to follow you. We love you so much. Let me pray. Jesus, I pray for all of us together who are receiving this word that you've given us. Lord, I pray that we would not let idols claim any ground in our life, because we are made in the image of God our Father in heaven. Would we be people who are sold out to worship you and you alone? Lord, we love you. We are so thankful that when we didn't have the ability to choose, you chose us. And you loved us and you died for us on the cross. We're so grateful, and we live in awe of what you have done. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Listen, if you haven't had a chance to connect into a group, I need you to text the letters YA group to the number 441-441. You're going to get connected right away, and you're going to jump into a conversation with other people right now who are having this conversation. What do we do with the idols in our life, and how do we identify them? It's a conversation that you need to have. So until then, next week, remember, we're giving the answer of how to tear the idols down. You don't want to miss it. Set the reminder now. Like and subscribe to the page. Set the reminder. We love you so much. We will see you at the Young Adult Retreat, which you need to go to. It takes YA Retreat. Make sure you get all the details. We love you. See you next week.